Welcome to Study Life. देखो बच्चों, previous years you have learned something called as a resistor. So every time I talk about resistor, few things we have always learned, we have learned Ohm's law in the previous years, we have learned what resistance is and a lot. You guys know what resistor is. Okay? This year we're going to learn a new thing. This thing is generally used in your fans to increase your speed. Once in a while your fan actually starts to operate at a low voltage, it starts swinging low, there is no air coming from your fan, and then you're like, papa, kuch to kharab ho gaya. And then your father does some magic and then he becomes a super dad and your fan starts moving very fast. Yes, that thing that he does an improvement in your fan is because of this capacitor. So you can see this is a capacitor on my left and a capacitor on my right. So and a resistor on my right. A resistor ka kaam is to slow down the flow of current, whereas the job of a capacitor is to store charges inside it. So every time you want to store charges, there is a capacitor. So every moment your your parent fits this in your fan, the speed of your fan increases and goes on fast. Now let's understand the mechanism of how this capacitor works. Okay? So chalo shuru karte hain. Let's get inside a capacitor. A capacitor is basically got two parallel metallic plates. It's got two plates, parallel metal in nature. Okay? One of these plates have a positive charge and the other has a negative charge. They basically have two opposite charges. So you might think that they may create an electric field. Yes, they may create an electric field, but more importantly, they create something called as potential difference. They create something called as potential difference. So this is some potential difference V that exists between these two parallel plates. I also understand that these two parallel plates are spaced out at some distance, let's say small d. They are placed out at some distance, let's say small d. So if I ever want to calculate the capacitance of this capacitor, the capacitance ka formula is given as the charge stored per unit potential difference. What is capacitance, bacho? It is nothing but the charge stored per unit potential difference. What is the unit for understanding capacitance? The unit for capacitance is F. F stands for farad. F stands for what, bacho? Farad. What is the formula for 1 farad? 1 farad is equal to 1 coulomb for 1 charge divided by potential, therefore 1 volt. So if the potential difference over here is 1 volt and the charge needed to store inside is 1 coulomb, therefore I understand that the capacitance for this capacitor is called as 1 farad. There are various terminologies. Some people use microfarads. Microfarads ka matlab hota hai 10 raised to minus 6 farads. Picofarads 10 raised to minus 12 farads. Nanofarads is 10 raised to minus 9 farad. Microfarads, it is 10 raised to minus 3 farads. So farads can have different variations. You can use whichever you like. Okay? So about capacitors, as I said, it's charge acting per unit potential difference. We'll be using the value of this charge very often, like the formula to calculate charge, CV. Okay? This is something that we are going to use very often, and the standard formula. These are two variations of the same formula. I want you people to recite this, write it a couple of times, memorize them, and meet me in the next video. The next video, we're going to learn about combination of capacitors. It is very similar to what we have learned with resistors. What happens when resistors are connected in parallel and in series? A similar approach for capacitors will be in our next video. Until then, stay tuned with Study Life and keep working hard.